Welcome back for another episode of Business and Life Stories with Mike and James. We're so excited today to bring you Sam Riley, who, man, if you've not heard of her yet, I don't know why not, because you haven't been paying attention. She's a coach. She has an amazing website. She does a fantastic podcast. She has some really cool books, and she's going to share some ideas about how she got where she is and things that all you early stagers can think about. Maybe some things to reduce your stress and have a lot of fun. Plus, we know it's going to be a fun interview because she's Aussie, and we love the Aussies. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Michael and James. Yes, us Aussies do like to have fun. Yes, that is correct.
So how do you balance all this stuff? You got the books, the podcast, the coaching business, and you've got, at least on your website, you got 4 different avenues for people to get coaching.
So isn't that interesting that you've come right out of the gate with that question? Because I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think that there is such a thing as, we have this as our business and this is our personal, because essentially as business owners, we are our business. And I spent many, many years thinking that I shouldn't be defined by my business, but I don't know anyone that hasn't been. Yes, we shouldn't attempt to just have our whole life revolved around it, but it is such a huge part of our lives. So I don't know about the balance thing, and I don't know that I do that really well all the time. Sometimes I do it better than others. But for me, the most balance comes down to 2 things. It's systems and delegating. They're the only 2 ways that you can grow a business and to have some semblance of balance.
So where did you learn to create systems and methods of delegation that worked for you?
So I was really, really lucky. Like, this is I did not try and do this. It just fell in my lap. The very first job I ever had was at McDonald's. I was 15 years old. I started work at McDonald's, and most people would think, yeah, not a great job. But as a 15-year-old, I absolutely loved that job. I loved going there. I loved the people. I loved learning from our managers. I thought they were really cool people. And the person that owned our store actually owned four stores. So I really looked up to him and thought, wow, he's someone that I can really learn from. He's really successful. He's someone that I really like. Essentially, I want to be like him. I want to have successful businesses and be like him. And I used to come in after school, the school uniform on and my school bag, and I used to plonk myself down on his desk, and I used to say, hey, Chris, can you, what are you doing? Can you teach me about this? And he was such a cool guy that he took me under his wing and said, anyone that wants to ask me about this stuff, I will help you as much as I could. And he helped me get my first full-time job when I was, I think I was like 16 or 17. I was actually quite young. I left school early, and he mentored me right through to when I opened my first business at 20. So when I decided I wanted to open my first business, I went back to him and said, hey, Chris, I'm thinking about this. What do I need to know? How can you help me? So I was super lucky to have a mentor from that early age, someone that saw, I guess, the potential in me, because he's like, I would love to actually, I want you to be working for me in management, but I can see you'd never last here, but, he saw the potential in me. But also I didn't understand how lucky I was with learning those systems, because I thought that's just what everyone knew, because that's all that I knew. Does that make sense? So when I was learning these systems, I opened my first business at 20, I automatically just started creating systems for everything because that's all I knew. And it wasn't until probably when I started my coaching business back in 2010 that I realized that what I knew wasn't what most people knew, that I'd been very lucky just to understand that this is the way business was done.
Wow.
I mean, I would love to pick up the point there, Sam, about mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Straight at the gate, is it possible for a startup or an early stage to create great success without a mentor, or without having been mentored in the past? And it's there are a lot of dreamers. There are a lot of people who come up with genius products, but who haven't got the systems or the skills or the foresight or the mental capacities or the mental training, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it is, because we don't know what we don't know. In saying that, coaches and mentors come in different capacities. So my first mentor was, my original boss. A lot of my mentors in my first retail business were actually suppliers that I was so lucky. They would come to us and say, we can see so much potential in your business, but we can see you falling down in this area. This is, have you thought about, putting in a system here, or how you could deal with this a little bit differently? We used to have suppliers flying into, we were in Adelaide at that time, which is a really, really small city in Australia. And they would fly in to see us, and they would often take us out for dinner or for lunch and talk about business, because obviously as suppliers, the more successful we are, the more successful they are. So my original mentors were suppliers, people that I'd met, people I met at networking events. Some of my, I would say, people that I wouldn't necessarily call them specifically mentors, but other even customers that I got to know that also had business, and we would go out for coffee or for lunch and talk about business. I think coaches are different to mentors. We took on our first business coach at probably about the 7 or 8 year mark. And in 6 months, we doubled our business. Like, that is the value of having coaches and mentors. They are I think one of the biggest investments we can make into our business.
That's a good point for all our listeners. How would someone go about deciding or kind of figuring out if a coach is right for them? And also, it's almost an unfair question to go to a coach and say, show me your results, because the results depend so much on whether or not the client's going to do any work or implementation. So what are some things that people should be looking for?
So I think the first thing you need to do is turn within and ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? What is the areas where I'm lacking? Am I looking at, do I need to implement systems? Do I need to look at my online marketing? So what is the area that I need the coaching in, or where am I not getting the results in my business? Because you need to know that first, because there are some people that say, oh, I know I need a coach, and they will start to ask people, oh, who would you recommend? And totally not the right way of going about it, because you haven't turned within first and said, what is it that I need? Once you know what it is that you need as the business owner, or at least, actually, sometimes you may not even know what you need. Let me just actually rephrase that, because you just need to know where are the challenges, because at that point you may not know what you need. So where are the challenges, and who can fill that gap potentially? And then start to, I guess, I usually follow that person for a little while, because not just to see what their results are, but do their values align with my values? Because that's just as important. Because if your values don't align, what you will start to do is do things in your business that aren't aligned with your values, which will repel people. Energetically, it's not good. So you need to know, what are my challenges? Who could potentially fill them? What are the results that coach is getting for their clients? And are their values aligned with mine? And if all of those things start to, you can see that those things are falling into place, then it's about reaching out, having a chat with that person and seeing, are we a fit to work with each other? Because it needs to be as a coach and a client, it needs to be a two-way partnership.
So what things should a potential client bring to you? So they've already looked within, they know where their challenges are, they've done what they can do. As you said, they don't know what they don't know.
So
bring in the willingness to implement, of course, but beyond that, what else do they need to bring?
So they don't need to bring anything. That's when the coach takes over, because the coach is the expert. A good coach will then be able to ask the questions that brings out what those challenges are. As the expert, they can see the symptoms and prescribe what needs to happen. if as a business owner you're going to your coach and saying this is what I need, then straight away that's not a good partnership, because like I said, you don't know what you don't know. You can get in all sorts of trouble. So it's definitely, that's when the coach needs to take over and say, okay, what's going on? What are your symptoms? Okay, I can see now what we need to do. This is how we need to move forward.
I'm really glad you mentioned the bit about values and moving forward. Similar thing to us, as longtime professional investors, is that values thing. We don't want to invest in any management team of any small company that does not share our values. Because when things start going wrong, as they will, you need everybody rowing the boat in the same direction.
Absolutely. 100%.
So you built your coaching business, kind of started doing it before the internet was a big thing, right? Or did you come in afterwards?
So I started my first business before the internet. So my first business in 1990, it was either 92 or 94, I can't remember. Must have been 92. I opened a dance studio. A year after that, I opened up my first retail store. And over the next few years, we built that up to 2. I think at about the 20-year mark, it was 3. I had a health and wellness center. I'd had a personal training studio. And then 2010, I started my coaching business. So the internet was definitely around then, but it wasn't mainstream. Like not everyone had a social media presence at that time. And I guess they don't now, but it is more mainstream. So yeah, the internet was around, and I did tap into it right from the beginning of the journey, because I'd been in traditional business for 20 years and I knew that I didn't want to continue down that route. I didn't want to be showing up, putting a key in the door every day. I didn't want to be, location dependent. I didn't want to be able to go away whenever I wanted. So I already knew that I wanted to do something different. So I was quite early to that online coaching space.
Well, you have an amazing website, and James and I have analyzed lots of websites. Yours is really good.
Oh, thank you.
How much capital would a startup need before they take on a coach?
This is such an interesting question, because again, it depends on the coach, depends on the business, it depends on what area you're looking to be coached in. You can pick up coaches for not very much. You can pick up coaches that are charging multiple 6 figures and even into 7 figures. So there's actually no way I can answer that question, because there's so many different parameters and things to take into account. What I will say is to think more about a coach being an investment. And I know that you both will get this.
Yes.
I think a lot of people get caught saying a coach is a cost. Well, it's not. It's an investment, because you need to have a return on that investment. And to be able to get a return on that investment, you need to do the work. So it's a symbiotic relationship where you do have to be able to obviously afford them right from day one, but you need to be implementing that work right from day one so that you get a return on that investment as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, you're working with someone who's going to be shining a light on things that you haven't maybe seen that were there before, or things that are really uncomfortable. So you really need to be in a headspace of, I'm going in this, and I've got to take baby steps. And some of these things are going to feel uncomfortable because I haven't done them before. Some of these things are going to be, maybe I don't understand them. So this is when a good coach comes in and they're able to walk you through step by step, which is what I do. My clients will say, give me the whole picture. No, you don't need the whole picture. That will overwhelm you. Just go and do these 3 things and then come back to me. So yeah, I didn't answer your original question, but I hope I've given you some thoughts that, you really do need to invest in a coach and know that means that you need to put in the work.
I thought it was a brilliant answer. And I know that many of our listeners are going to have that question. So it's not about thinking about the capital you have to have. It's thinking about, what are you willing to spend, invest. And remember, if you're operating in any nation in the Western world, what you spend on a coach is dollar for dollar a business expense. Like, it never happened. So you don't need to worry about that. But yeah, Sam, that's a great answer, because that's such a better way for people to think about it. Because then they know, if they approach someone like you, these are the holes I think I have. This is what I can afford to invest right now. That's a much better way to approach a coach and find out if there's going to be a good fit or not.
Yeah, and I
You know,
think
it's
I
fair
can
to
add.
everybody. It makes sense.
I can add to that as well. Look for coaches for where you're at. So if you haven't reached your first six figures, you've got no systems in your business, your marketing's not on point, you're struggling to convert sales, don't go straight for the coach that coaches 8-figure business owners and outlay a huge amount of money, because it's not going to work. You need to find a coach that's going to coach you for where you're at currently, so that you can get to that the coach that's going to help you with your 8-figure business. I think that's really important as well, because I see a lot of people, and again, I'm speaking from the coaching market, because this is like where I'm at. Coaches that start out, they might be earning, $5,000-$6,000 a month, and they get caught up in I want a 7-figure business, so I'll go to that coach that works with 7-figure business owners, and then that's a cost, because they're unable to implement those strategies, because they're not in the mindset, they don't have the cash flow. It's just, the coach may not even remember what it's like being back there at that 6-figure mark. So find someone that's just above you, not too far ahead of you.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
so brilliant. I feel like I'm taking business class now. This is wonderful.
That's a good thing.
That's a wonderful thing.
Hey, can we I would love to just touch on the topic of inner work. So I've done a lot of sales calls with a lot of smaller business owners, and I turn my own life around by finding myself a coach, by investing, and so I love coaching, and I love being coached. But how about the inner work? Because we can be told, shown, you can lead a horse to water, show them all the growth strategies, X, Y, Z, from almost a mentoring perspective of being there and looking down and seeing where they are and where they need to go. So you can see the roadmap and you can place the roadmap. But how important is it for someone to appreciate that there's mindset involved and clarity of mind and focus and all those, what many people describe as the hidden iceberg, right?
100%. So you said you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But if you give that horse a really great serving of MSG before you take it to water, they'll be super thirsty and they'll drink. And that is what mindset is. Brilliant. You need to understand that there's blocks that we are not aware of. They're unconscious. They're holding us back. So sometimes it doesn't matter how much we try and implement, there are blocks holding us back. Again, they can't be seen. So as I was mentioning that the client-coach relationship is symbiotic, so is the implementation, which I'm huge about, and the mindset work and the inner work, because one doesn't come before the other. They come simultaneously. And you'll reach a ceiling in your implementation, and then it's like, okay, what do I need to do to get to the next level? And it's this constant building of, mindset, implementation. So definitely, I'm always be working on, money blocks or, law of attraction, all sorts of inner work. I work with my clients on, I use a tool called human design that helps them to really understand who they are and are they in alignment with who they are and the business that they're trying to create. So not everything is logical. There is so much out there that we don't understand, and I believe that we need to tap into that. And if you look at any high-level CEO of your top 500, 100 companies, you talk to any of those CEOs, all of them have coaches around mindset, They do, meditation. They often see all sorts of healers and, spiritual gurus, because they know that there's so much out there that we're not aware of. So, success leaves clues.
Absolutely. And I can remember reading about the power of intuition, and it's one of those things, along with meditation, which I'm a great advocate to, and it's one of those things where, if you're in a startup situation, working yourself to the bone, the thought of taking even 10 minutes out for just some quiet time, but also the ability to really harness and train that kind of woohoo thing of intuition. But when you begin to read about it, and it's not just in the business. I mean, I've read about it in climbing books and mountaineering books, and many of the people who knew when to turn back and it saved their lives. And it's the same as intuition and giving oneself time to think without interruptions within a business startup, right?
It's like the old metaphor of, chopping down a tree. Is the person that stops that's using the blunt axe and trying to cut down the tree, and then you've got the person that stops to sharpen his axe. And the first person is like, what are you doing? You're wasting time. And it's like, well, I'm sharpening my axe. It's that exact same thing. You do need to stop, and you need to sharpen your axe. You need to step away from what you're doing to get a different perspective.
So important. So important.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you mentioned that too. We didn't start making money as an investing firm until we all started taking time to exercise, get out in nature, go for walks, bike rides, and so on. That made a huge difference in our ability to figure out what we wanted to invest in.
Absolutely, because we're big balls of energy, and we need our energy needs to move in our body for us to be creative, for us to, to be able to attract what we want to attract into our world. So all of that is so, so important.
So tell us a little bit, changing gears. Most of our listeners don't know all that much about Australia. I mean, in Texas, we love Aussies because every time Aussies come here, we have a good time. We're like, well, okay, you guys are basically sort of got the same attitude we do. That's a good thing. I saw you posted on, it was either LinkedIn or Facebook, you took a trip to the beach for a week with the...
Well, I actually live at the beach, so I'm very lucky. I'm so lucky. Like, even some of the Aussies are like, oh, we wish you could live there. I actually have my balcony right on the ocean. So, most days we can see the whales going past in winter, or we see the dolphins surfing on waves. So, living the true Australian dream, living at the beach. But yeah, we did take a trip just recently up into like the more, more north in Australia, because we're in winter here. So it's a bit warmer up north. And it was fantastic. Our country is beautiful. It really is beautiful, and we're so blessed. It's, well, as you are, James, in New Zealand. I haven't actually been to New Zealand, but I've heard it's even more beautiful than here, nature-wise. But Australia is a very laid-back country. We're all about the fun. We've got beautiful nature, and just have a great time. And definitely, I'm missing coming over to the States. A lot of my friends are in the United States, so feeling very isolated at the moment with this pandemic, which I am so over, as I'm sure everyone is.
Yes. Of course, Scott, you've got a very nice place to stay here in Austin whenever you get here.
Oh, done.
I would. I think that's a really interesting point about the importance of taking time out, the importance of having fun, even for very conceptual people who might view fun as very different from a very kind of a highly energized, or there is still fun and the value of the time out. Now Wanaka has begun, and the whole Southern Lakes region here has begun to make a little name of sort of for itself as a place where entrepreneurs, sometimes from Silicon Valley, but they sort of come here for the combination of being able to work online, but also the combination of the time out, be it skiing or boating. Or how important have you found that is? It's kind of equivalent to mindset, right? It's sort of a missing piece if you don't know about it, isn't it? Insofar as building a business and growing a business.
Absolutely. So the post that Michael was referring to, now I remember it, was a post where I actually took a week out. My husband and I did. We went up to Queensland, but the piece about that, and the reason I posted that particular post, was I took a week out. None of my clients knew. None of my audience knew. No one knew that I'd left. And I didn't tell my clients for a reason, because I didn't want them to reach out more than they normally do. But my team of 14 just completely took the reins. Yeah. So, and this is where the systems are so important, because you want to make sure that your team is able to carry your business for you. Because they were able to do that, we were able to go away for a week, and I could probably do it for a month. And, I would need to check in a little bit, of course, but generally I would be able to take a month off or move, and no one would know, because the system, I've still got my social media going out. I've still got my clients being looked after. They're still getting everything they need. We've still got the team. They know exactly what they need to do. I don't need to micromanage them, because I've taught them that they've got, that they can, they know what they need to do. Yeah.
Empowered. It is really,
Sam. It's just brilliant.
McDonald's, I'm telling you.
So few early stage companies that we talk to, they just don't want to build that into the company. They're not ready to let go of that control.
Because, and what I hear most is people saying, but someone else doesn't do it as well as I do. Here's my take on that. No, they're not going to do it as well as you, because you're the business owner, so you're more invested on it. But here's another perspective. What if they don't do it like you, but they do it better because they're not you? You don't ever know what someone else is going to bring to the business. So our project manager can run the back end of my business better than I ever could. She is not my DI personality. She's a very C-type personality, and I've told her what systems I want, and she's created them 100 times better than I could have. So find people, and it was actually a piece of advice I've been given very early, actually in my dance studio. I'd always been thinking, how do I get teachers that are as good as me? And one of my other teachers, who was, again, one of my mentors, she was a lot older than I was. I brought her in because I really admired her. And she said to me, Sam, what you need to do is hire teachers that are better than you. And at the time I was like, what? And from that point, that's what I did. So I used to hire ex-professional dancers who were way better than me, but I was the business owner. I was still a great teacher, but I brought in teachers that were better than me. So that was a really great piece of advice I got, and I've always lived by that. I always look for someone that is better than me, not as a business owner, but in the area that I'm wanting to employ them for.
Yeah, because so many business owners, particularly in the early stages, get caught up with the admin and everyday tasks, and we've heard it so many times, haven't we? That the passion or the genius or whatever they started with gets sort of covered up and eroded with everyday tasks, which as you said, there are people out there who love that admin stuff and will never have your genius spot for that particular thing which you became a business owner for, right?
Absolutely. So go out there, find your team, be very aware of the culture that you're trying to build. Because, and I know I've heard Gary Vee talk about this before, or Gary Vaynerchuk, for those that haven't heard of him. He's always saying that you won't find staff that are as good as you because, they're not part of the business. And I do agree with him. because as the business owners, that it falls solely on our shoulders. But if you get the culture right and you attract the right people, they will be invested. We hit a milestone in our business a couple of weeks ago where we completed a certain amount of tasks, and it as a company, it's a goal that we'd set for the year, and we achieved it. And I sent everyone a message through our Slack channel. Oh my goodness, we've just hit it. And my team were all like, yay, Team Riley for the win. We're so proud. You know, Sam and Leon, we're so grateful that you have us on your team. And I had tears in my eyes thinking, wow, how cool that they've got gratitude for us, because the gratitude I have for them is off the charts. But that's the culture that we've built, that, you know, and I know that at any time they've got my back 100%, as we've got theirs, you know. So culture is really, really important, and just as important as the systems.
Absolutely. And I know that Mike's probably wanting to wrap it up soon, but can I just talk to the point about culture? It's so important, isn't it? It's now, what is your take on it? Should it be one of those things which should be developed from day one? Or can it be when someone comes across and has a business coach, they say, hey, what's your culture? And it's just, oh, I don't know, like hustle or like what culture? How important is culture for the growth and the development of a business and a brand and whatnot?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give a really bizarre answer that you probably won't get from anyone else. I think that it's really important, and that you do need to have an idea of what it is from day one. You need to know your values, what's really important, where you're going, you know, and why you're going there. However, I also feel that so many beginner stage businesses get caught up creating marketing plans and culture statements and mission statements, and they hold themselves back from actually just getting out there, getting proof of concept and getting money in the bank. So the answer is, I think it's really important right from the beginning. But I think that as long as you've got an idea of, you know, what you're trying to create, don't spend too much time trying to get everything perfect. Get out there, get proof of concept, get money in the bank, and then start to build it and evolve and grow as you go. So I don't know that that's a very politically correct answer. I don't know that it agrees with a lot of people, but I'm a big believer in get going, because I see so many people fail, and my take on this is that if they had money in the bank, they wouldn't fail. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
People ask me all the time after 30 plus years in this business, you know, what's the number one thing that kills off a startup? I said, they run out of money.
That's it. That is exactly it. Because even if they say they burn out, if they burn out, they could have had money and hired someone else. It always comes back to not having money. Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
So, Sam, do you have anything else you want to share?
Wow, like, I think it's been a great chat, and I mean, I could sit here and talk about business for the next 20 days, but I know that we have to wrap up. So I think that I think that the important pieces that we've talked about, just to summarize, is that, you know, it is very important to make your business, you know, have cash coming in right from day one. I'm really, really passionate about that. Systems are really important. Delegation, really important. They're my top 3 things besides the mindset. So that would be my top 4. Yeah. Fantastic. That you can't do anything without all of those.
100%.
So as usual, there's a link down below this video for y'all to get a hold of Sam. Go subscribe to her podcast. It's really amazing. And it's just something you got to do.
Thank you so much.
We're all still on. We can keep